Hi, welcome to the UpLife Studio Podcast, a space where we strive for an upgraded lifestyle by empowering personal growth. In this very special episode, I have an amazing guest. She's Nigerian-born, London-educated, a lawyer by profession, and a football coach in China. I bring to you Lola Ogunbote.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Hi, and thank you for joining our podcast.
You're welcome.
Isn't this amazing how we're in China?
Yeah.
You're from Nigeria. I'm from Romania, and we're having this podcast in this Beijing studio.
Yep, I think that's one of the good things about being able to travel. You get to meet different people and, exchange stories about different cultures. So yeah, I'm always up for that.
This is what I want to talk about today. Stories and traveling, because we've met a few days ago, basically, right?
Yeah, not long.
I think we connected at a very deep level.
Yeah.
Your story is amazing, and what you actually try to achieve is also amazing.
Thank you.
I have this ebook called 10-Step Guide to an Upgraded Lifestyle, in which I talk about goals, in which I talk about life challenges, but in which I also talk about passion.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to be able to bring that concept of mine today in our podcast with and through your life experiences.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited. So yeah, passion is one of the things that I think drives humans. If you don't have passion, sometimes you don't have a sense of drive. So it's important that you find something that you love and that you feel like you're called to do.
So you were born in Nigeria?
Yeah, I was born in Lagos. I was born in Lagos, Nigeria. And my parents are Nigerian, and that's where I'm from and where I was born.
And then you guys emigrated to the UK, or? Yeah,
my parents emigrated. My father emigrated first to the UK for a search of a better lifestyle, education. My mum remained in Nigeria, and he would travel back and forth. And so I was born in Nigeria, and then when the time was right, he applied for him, my sister, my mum, to come to London. And so
you're a London-educated girl.
I am London, not born, but definitely bred.
You're a London-bred girl, and actually, I remember how we had this little challenge, this ping pong challenge, right?
Yes.
The score is 23. 20 Romania, 3 USA. And then you said we gotta make it against the world.
We gotta make it against London and Nigeria. So I'm waiting for that too, actually.
What did you study in London?
I studied law, so my undergraduate degree is in law, and I also have a postgraduate degree in law too, and I went to law school, so very legally weighted. So
was that your career path, or how did you choose law?
It depends how you look at it. I think one of the most earliest memories I have actually is being at school and having a careers fair, which most schools have, to try and introduce students to different career paths. And I had never heard of a lawyer. I didn't know what it was. And there was a stand, and I went over, and I remember the teacher very clearly saying to me, like, "Oh, no. You don't want to go to that stand. You don't want to go to that stand."
Why was that?
And her actual reasoning and response was, people like you don't become lawyers. And so that was my initial interaction with the law. And I remember going home to my father and saying, I had this thing today, and this teacher said that being a lawyer is not for people like me. And
what did she mean by people like you?
I understood that to mean black people. That's what I understood that to mean, that people of color, people that looked like me, were not meant to be lawyers at the time. And
what are we talking about here?
We're talking about, I'd say, early 90s.
Okay,
so not 90s. not too long, but not too early either. And I remember having a conversation with my father, and he sat me down and said, you can be whatever you want to be if you put your mind to it. And so I don't have a story of I always dreamt of being a lawyer, I always wanted to be a lawyer. Essentially, I became a lawyer because somebody said I couldn't. And I was that type of personality. I rose to a challenge. Somebody said I couldn't do it, and I thought, well, maybe I can. Like, why why shouldn't I do it?
I know that, and that's an amazing story. And I can tell you're always up for a challenge.
Always.
Because that ping pong challenge that was just a bit of a banter, and then you just jumped in and said, like, bring it on.
Yeah, bring it on. I'm competitive.
And the game still has to happen.
It has to happen. It has to happen. Let me know when you're free.
And I think I connected to your story of going to law school because I was also supposed to go to law school.
Yeah.
So the story goes like this. Grade 12 in high school, the Romanian Secret Service come to our high school and they start recruiting people.
Wow.
And I was recruited to be groomed for joining the Secret Service Academy in the capital city of Bucharest.
Wow.
And I took all the tests and I passed with flying colors in my hometown.
Yeah.
The next step would be going and taking the exam in Bucharest. But before I went, I hope this is not state secret, this is just common practice, they said, sign this contract. So I was supposed to sign a 10-year contract with the Secret Service.
10 years.
I know.
Wow.
In case I'm accepted in the academy, they pay for everything.
Yeah.
But then I'm with them for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, what does it mean? Well, like you take a day off, you tell us where we're going. If you want to leave the country, you have to give us, we have to give you permission. I was like, what?
Wow.
What? I'm like...
You belong to them.
I want to go to Japan. I want to go to Japan and be a ninja. It's like, oh, no. We have to decide if you can go anywhere.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm done. I'm not interested anymore.
Yeah.
And Dad said, okay, it's okay. Just go to law school.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? So I took the entrance exam at one of the very good law schools in my region.
Yeah.
Obviously, I failed.
What?
I can't. I didn't
Deliberately?
Prepare. No, I just didn't. It was like a totally different curriculum. Then my dad said, okay, just go to the local university. I took the law exam at my local university. Obviously, I failed again.
Wow.
And then I went back home and I told Dad, I'm done with this university thing. I'm going to be a ninja. And Dad said, okay, just choose a university of your choice and just go to university. Yeah. And that's what do I like? I like to read books. Okay, I'll go to the humanities university. So that's my law story. And at that time in Romania, law was like the most popular college.
Everyone wants to be a lawyer, right?
Everyone wanted to be a lawyer. All my friends went to law school.
Yeah.
It's mad. Yeah. It's just like, I don't want to be a lawyer.
I think my experience was somewhat similar in that everybody, like you say, it's got prestige. You know, you walk into a room, you say you're a lawyer, and people are like, oh, okay, they want to take you kind of seriously. Whether you agree with that or not, I think it's just a status thing. That's how people view lawyers, and you have to work hard to become a lawyer. It's not easy. It's not something that you take on just because. And so you are right to really be like, is this something that I really want to do? And I feel like for me, it was a choice that I wanted to be a lawyer, maybe not for the right reasons, but it meant that I had good grounding, good education, and that then presented options for my future.
What is law school like? Is it difficult, like the movies?
I think law in the UK is different to law in the US. I think the law in the US is very, dramatized. It looks high-paced. It's fun. It's exciting. That's just film for you. Mm-hmm. But the day-to-day work of a lawyer is hard. It's mentally exhausting. A lot of reading, a lot of studying. You have to be quick. You have to find solutions. People come to you with a problem and they're expecting you to fix it. That's what you get paid to do, to fix problems. And so, it can be demanding and it can be an emotional strain sometimes.
All right. I wanna just warn the listeners that the passion we talked at first has nothing to do with law.
Nothing to do with law.
Just starting to get into the juicy part, the meat of our story. What happened after law school? You became a lawyer.
Yeah.
Is that what you wanted to be?
I became a lawyer. Is it what I wanted to be?
To be a London lawyer, it's like New York lawyer, London lawyer. It's like it's up there.
In theory, it's up there. In theory, it's up there. As a
status symbol, and I was like, on your CV.
It looks great, and people want to talk to you. They want to know, they assume that you're smart and you have power, and you're
the only reason why I wanted
superior.
to talk to you was because of the ping pong thing.
I know. You're a real person.
We need to play that game. And after I say, I used to be a lawyer. So let's get the game
Side
going.
Side issue. And so I realized that, this wasn't my calling. I genuinely believe that some people have, or all people have, in fact, I'll correct myself. Everybody has a gift. That's my view. Everyone has a gift and everyone has something that they can contribute to society. And for me, it was football, my ability to connect with people through a sport that I loved. And I don't remember how I even learned how to play football. I don't remember my dad ever taking me to the park or playing. It was nothing like that. I think it was just something that was in me. And so I played football and I wanted to pursue football. But I didn't have the parental support, if I can put it that way. And that's not to criticize my parents, but as I explained, they were immigrants from a different country seeking a better life. And so doing law was a way to achieve that. Mm-hmm. It was going to give me job stability. It was going to give me money. It was going to give me an opportunity to provide for a family one day. It's a good career to have. Football coaching wasn't really on that level, and I realized that it was what I loved.
Being a ninja was not really like a viable solution for a 20-year-old.
Right, it's not going to put food on your table. It's not going to pay your bills, but it's what makes you happy. And I think in life, that's what you have to choose. You have 3 choices: good, better, best. Sometimes it's good to be a ninja. Sometimes it's better to be a lawyer. Sometimes it's best to do what you love.
Yeah, do you know that there's actually a company in Japan that is hiring people to be ninjas?
Have you submitted your resume?
No, you need to speak Japanese.
No.
My Japanese is a bit rusty. But it's amazing how it's a well-paid job and basically you're playing to be a ninja for the tourist industry.
That's pretty cool.
But you've got all the gear on and you're in the zone, you're playing.
I didn't know you could get paid for it, but it's not too late.
So you did go into law practice?
I did. I was a good child.
Were you there arguing with the judge and explaining it to the people?
Trying to. Law in the UK isn't as dramatic, but yeah, I did. I studied, I did well. I represented people in court. I was a junior lawyer. I was young, so I had a good mentor who was an excellent lawyer, and we did cases for murder trials, for financial fraud, big time cases for me that were very interesting.
But by just talking about it, it is a fascinating, and it does give you I'm not saying a higher social status, but it is something that many people not dream of, but they see through the TV, through television. It's wow, you actually did that?
Yeah. And so, some days it is like the movies. Some days it is you're rushing to court, you've dropped your papers, you've got to get back to the office and make it in time before the judge bangs his gravel. And other days, you're sat in your office from 9 to 9 studying and reading.
I know. Sometimes my friends or family or acquaintances will ask me so what does your brother do? And I'm oh, here we go again. Well, he makes robots. He does what?
He
makes robots. And you ended up a teacher? And I know it's not that high profile.
Yeah.
But I think doing the job that I do, apart from the podcast and the YouTube thing, it's I always tell my students that I've never worked a day in my life.
Yeah.
I'm just being paid to go and tell stories to students.
Yeah.
And then there's an exam at the end of the quarter, but that's your problem, not mine.
Yeah. I think the saying goes, when you do something that you love, you never feel like you're at work, right? You genuinely wake up and look forward to doing your hobby. You're being paid for your hobby, and that's how I genuinely feel. I didn't feel that way with law, although I had a great career. I enjoyed myself and I think I was successful. But the joy, I think there's a difference between happiness and joy. I think joy is just that little bit deeper. The joy I feel when I'm coaching, I don't have anything in my life that I can compare it to. It's where I feel most comfortable. It's what I love to do. I feel free and uninhibited. And so I get to do that all the time. And I count myself very lucky and very blessed that I get to do something that I love and be paid to do it.
Amazing. And how long were you a lawyer for?
I was a lawyer. I qualified in 2010. And
what do you mean by qualify? To the bar exam?
To the bar, yeah. I was called to the bar in 2010.
That's a tough exam.
It's a very, very tough exam.
I had a very smart friend back home in Romania, and she did her teaching degree, and then She went to law school and she couldn't pass the bar exam.
Yeah, it's not
Smart.
easy.
I was like, wow, you didn't pass. Like, it's good I didn't get in the field.
Yeah, it's not easy. It requires a lot of work, a lot of discipline, a lot of sacrifices, but I was able to get through it. And I worked for about 7 years in law.
7 years.
Yeah.
Did you walk out of it with a burnout, or did you decide it's time to move on, or it's time to just do my own thing, or to do what I want to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think what was interesting about it was I always had this idea of going back to follow my passion. When my parents refused to sign the scholarship for me to go and perhaps make it professional in America, it was devastating for me. And they felt that it was the right call. They felt that me not going on the scholarship meant that I could study. And I was resentful, if I'm honest, for a very long time, and angry. And I went to law school.
Young, talented, with the drive and the passion.
And I felt like the ability too. But I was a minor and I needed their parental support, and they weren't going to give it to me. And so I went to law school, and I thought, well, I might as well do the best I can here, given that football's not going to happen.
So we haven't spelled it out yet. The passion is football. We're talking about soccer here, right?
Soccer for all our American friends, not American football, but real football. English
so you're
football.
saying you were accepted at a program in the States?
Yeah, in Virginia Virginia University. Sorry, I was accepted. I had a full ride scholarship for soccer.
For soccer, wow.
Yeah, at 16.
Do you ever think about a different career path that could have been? I know it's a dangerous game to play.
It is.
Like, oh man, I could have been,
Yeah. And I think that's what made me so upset for a long time, because I would see people that were turning professional and thinking, well, by this time I would have been that person. By this time I could be representing my country. At this time, and who knows, maybe I would have started football, broken my leg, and that would have been the end of my career. But it's the unknown that we are often found romanticizing about, rather than the reality. And so for me, it was like, what could have been? What could I have become, rather than what actually happened? And what actually happened is I never took the scholarship, so I would never know. And so that drove me to be like, well, I'm not going to miss out again. If law doesn't work out for me, then I want to try football. And that's what happened. I had a great career. I ended up at Goldman Sachs, which is one of the largest investment firms in the world. And so for my parents, I felt like I had given them what they wanted. I gave you a career.
Frame that photo.
Yeah, you can frame that graduation picture, which is still in their bedroom. You can have that. I've given that to you. And now I want to lead my own path. Now I feel like I'm at a stage and age and maturity where I'm able to fly the nest, so to speak, and kind of deviate and be my own person. And it came later in life for me, but I'm glad it came.
I totally understand how your parents are feeling, because every time I go home, although I've been living abroad for 16 years, every time I go back home, my dad said, oh, by now you would have been a PhD professor.
Yes.
And you would have had a very high status in our little hometown.
Yes.
And through very low teaching hours and a fairly decent salary, right?
Yeah.
And I said, Dad, that was not me. So when I moved to Thailand on my 3 months holiday from my teaching job in Romania, I was like, I'm going to stay for 3 months. And then I stayed for a year. Then I stayed for 2 more years. And after 3 years, I said, like, I'm done. I'm not going back. My dad was devastated.
Yeah.
Like, I never found out until very late in life when friends told me, like, your dad was, like, very, very upset with you.
Yeah.
But it was, sometimes you have to take that. It's not a risk, but you just have to follow your calling.
Yeah, your calling, your heart. And I would disagree. I think it is a risk. It is a risk. It's a risk to go and, well, you have these insecurities. What if you fail? And then all your family are like, well, we told you so. We told you to stay in law. Football was never going to work. You have all these insecurities, fears, doubts, but generally you have to trust your instinct. And, I don't believe in failure. I just believe in learning. So if I had come and football didn't work out, guess what? I've learned a lot about myself. So either way, it's a win-win. The worst thing you can have in life is regrets.
I know. I tell my parents, like, so many things. My dad said, so many things could have happened. I said, yeah, I could have died. And then I told them, like, I survived the SARS outbreak, the bird flu in Asia.
True.
I survived the 2004 tsunami.
Wow.
I survived, as in survived. I was in the country where it happened. Right?
Yeah.
I survived the coup d'etat in Thailand.
Yeah.
The military took over the government.
Yeah.
I survived the local bombings in Bangkok. So, like, it's we manage, we survive, you know?
Yeah, we do our best.
So while you were in uni and while you were doing your law practice, did you keep in touch with the sport, so to speak?
Oh, absolutely. I played football from primary school to secondary school, at university, and even at Goldman Sachs. We had
a firm team?
We had a firm team, yeah. I made sure of it. We had a firm team. We had the women's team. We'd play other law firms and other international banks. We had about 10 teams competing. So it was something that kept me at peace, that I was still in touch with football, maybe not to the level that I had anticipated or hoped, but I was still able to play. And so I made sure, in fact, if I'm honest, one of the reasons why, Goldman Sachs was attractive is because they had a women's football team. So as well as being able to do law, I could still keep up my passion.
Yeah, so your CV looks great. So why do you want to work for us? You've got a football team,
You've got
right?
a great football team, yeah.
So did you go straight into coaching after your law career?
Yeah, so at the time I quit, I think I was probably 27 at the time. So
did you have any of the bosses saying, like, what are you doing?
Absolutely. And I still have them saying, what are you doing today? I was doing well at law, and I could have done and continued to kind of climb that ladder, so to speak. But I literally was like, I woke up one day and I quit my job. I just said I quit. I didn't have any reason, no argument. I just said, this is my resignation. I'm going. And everyone was like, what? This is so out of the blue. Are you sick? Are you pregnant? I'm like, no, I want to live my life. I don't want to waste another day. And I quit my job. I didn't know what I was going to do. And literally, I think I remember I quit my job on a Tuesday. And on Thursday, I saw this advert for Arsenal Football Club recruiting for coaches.
And Arsenal too.
And it's Arsenal.
Yeah.
Arsenal is the team that I support.
Okay.
So it was like, my childhood club is recruiting for coaches. I've just quit my job. This has come up. I saw it on a Thursday. The deadline for applications was Friday. And I was like, this is just too much. This is definitely a sign. I think this is a way of me knowing that this was the right call, and I applied.
How does football coach recruiting happen? Do you have to show up with a CV, or
you show up? This course was unique in that they needed people who had not necessarily coached before, and Arsenal were going to train you on how to become a coach.
And
so it was so it's perfect for me. I didn't have any serious football qualifications because I never went professional. I just played leisurely for fun. And so I was nervous that everybody else would be like high level football and I'm doing law, like on my CV, what can I write? Like, I'm good at writing long documents. I can quote you statutes from 1968. Like, there was nothing I could put other than I play recreational football that could support my application. But when I went in there and I told them, I've quit my job and I'm ready to take on a new career, they could sense how serious and sincere I was. And I think that, if anything, was what persuaded them to take a chance on me.
So then they coached you, and then you started training their girls team? Yeah,
so for the program, you are taught for the first 6 months on how to become a coach. And if they think that you are successful and good enough, they allow you to coach at different clubs and partner clubs across the world. So I ended up coaching the community girls team at Arsenal. I then went to Mozambique. I went to South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Australia, coaching with Arsenal.
That's mad.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And so I went from being in an office to being out in a field and looking out at safaris, being in Australia, the Sydney Opera House, being in Nelson Mandela's home in South Africa and Johannesburg. And just this whole world opened as a result of me making a decision to follow something that I've always loved. And so it definitely was the best decision, and is the best decision I think I've made to date.
Was a good call. just as a curiosity, do all passionate or good football players make good coaches?
No.
No. Yeah, because at the moment you were saying that
No.
I ran through the training and they thought I have potential, so they signed me on, right?
Yeah.
I suppose not everyone becomes.
No, and I think sometimes if you're a player, it's difficult to transition from being a player into a coach, right?
Yeah, let me show you how to do this.
Yeah. Let me show you, you know? And sometimes as a coach, you need, I think, some similar skills as being a lawyer. You need to be able to be impartial and not be critical, but evaluate, right? You need to see a player and say, okay, these are the good things you're doing, and these are the areas that we can work on. And same in law. If somebody comes with you with a case, you need to see the pros and cons of both sides. You need to be fair. You need to be supportive. You need to be somebody who can bring out the best in someone else. And sometimes I find that actually my training in law makes me a better coach, weirdly enough. Because I am able to talk to people. I feel like I'm personable.
Yes.
And I feel like that only came as my training as a lawyer, where you have to meet different people in different walks of life. And so it kind of molded together. And all the skills just kind of came together and it worked. It worked for me. I'm very lucky. But yeah, I made a coach and I received an award. I was the first female to receive the Best Coach of the Year award for that year, at Arsenal, and the professional players came down and gave me this award.
That's a big honor.
It was. They flew to Australia. I was in Australia at the time, and I had 4 of the Arsenal players come. It was on TV and it was filmed, and at that moment,
should be on your mom's wall too, right? Right next to your graduation.
It should be right next to my law graduation. Yeah. But that was when I felt like, this is, I felt like I made it. You know, when people say, "Oh, you're a lawyer, you've made it," it was kind of like that.
What makes a good coach? What are the 3 most important qualities of a good football coach?
A good football coach.
Why I'm asking is because I also trained archery for a very long time. Of course. At an advanced level, I was lucky to be able to train with the Olympic teams in Thailand, because Thailand was like a hub where all the Asian countries will go, except Korea. I mean, even Korea, but they will not send their Olympic team. Like Mongolia is too cold. Other countries in Southeast Asia, they don't have the facilities. So it was like a hub, and I was training over there for free.
Wow.
And I could see the differences between coaches and archers and former archers becoming coaches.
Yes.
And not everyone
can make that transition.
You're a great archer, but you're not making the cut as a coach, right?
Yeah.
Because the Asian idea is that you have to do it our way.
Yes.
Like, this is how you shoot. This is your position. That's where you put it.
And there's no other way.
There's no other way.
Right.
And it works in Korea because, and in China because there's so many people.
Yeah.
But in smaller countries with a smaller budget, or
it's
like different
difficult.
kinds of physiques, the coach works with you towards a goal. It's not the other way around. I have my goal. I put that goal into you.
Yeah.
If you can't make the cut, it's fine. You can go and try ping pong. So what makes a good football coach?
A good football coach, I think the first thing is patience/tolerance. I think as a coach, you have in your mind how you want your players to play, what they should do. And sometimes your players are not going to get it like this. So you need patience. You need tolerance to allow people to make mistakes and correct them in a constructive way. I'd say the second thing is you need subject knowledge. You need to know what you're talking about, right? If you're a football coach and you don't know about football.
I don't know much about football. Just you run after the ball and then you kick it and you run after the ball again.
So simple, right?
I know, like, girl, run after the ball.
So you need subject knowledge. You need to know what you're talking about. You need to be able to teach, right? And you can't teach without having knowledge. That's my view. You need to have subject knowledge. And I think the third thing is to continue learning. The day that you as a coach think that you cannot learn more is the day that you need to quit coaching, because you always have the opportunity to improve your style, to gain new knowledge, to look at other coaches, to watch videos. You need to be consistently developing and improving because you want your players to consistently develop and improve. So if I'm still using ideas and sessions from 6 years ago for my new team, how can I expect them to keep up with everyone else? I need to be I need to develop.
Has your impression and attitude towards the game changed since you became a coach? I noticed that when I started archery training seriously, I was actually like watching an archery game or match, and I was like looking for peculiarities and like, okay, how is this archer's form?
Yes.
And how is he holding the bow? It's no longer an entertainment sport.
Yes.
I was like literally looking for knowledge.
I can completely relate to that. And I used to watch football for leisure, and I watched it. I would not miss. There's a program in the UK called Match of the Day. It summarizes all the Premier League games for the week on one show. It's an hour on Saturday at 10 p.m. There is no friend, no family, nobody that could schedule an appointment during that time. That's how important the program was. It doesn't matter where I am. Even if I'm on holiday, I have it recorded and I'll watch it. And now, as I watch it, even still in China, I now look at it and I critique it from a different viewpoint. I'm looking...
New setup, look at that.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, okay, the coaches asked them to do this, to press high, to defend, to attack, to quick pass. And so sometimes it's not fun just to sit back and watch it, but sometimes it is fun because you can see how tactics are being played out in a professional game, and you can get ideas and be like, okay, this week maybe I'll try that with my team.
And I think that's what you were referring to when you say you continue learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
I never thought about it too, actually. Follow the coach at a football game, like to look at what he's saying or doing. Or Speaking of football coaches, like when we say football, we most of the time we think of men football, right?
Yeah.
And when we think of men playing a game, I can imagine this coach shouting at everyone, like, do this, do that, not, and using bad language.
Yeah.
What's the coaching vibe in a women's team?
Exactly the same.
Oh, wow, really?
Exactly the same. Yeah. I can only speak to London, but if you are in London and you're on the sideline and you're listening to a coach his team or her team, it's pretty much the same. Same bad language, same aggression, same drive, same resilience. The difference is we're women and they're men, you know? And there's a lot of argument about, you know, is the game the same? Should they be paid the same?
I
is
think
it
there's a ball
fair?
and everyone runs after it and kicks it. Yeah, it's the same game.
It's the same game. It's the same game, right? And that's what I love about it. Football doesn't discriminate. You know, I don't know you, but we have a ball, we have two jumpers, we make a goal, and we can play.
Exactly.
I don't need to speak your language.
Yeah.
You don't need to speak mine. I don't need to know you from Adam, but we have our feet and we play. And so football breaks down social barriers, and is inclusive. And that's why the World Cup is such a huge event. Even people that don't normally watch football will watch the World Cup.
The fever.
Yeah, they get the fever because it's just all these countries coming in from different places, and it's exciting, you know, and it creates this buzz. And that's what I love. That's what I love about football, that, you know, you can go anywhere in the world and play. It's a universal language. I genuinely feel like it's another language. It's a sport that everyone can speak to and participate in.
Amazing. In archery, the coaching is very it's a very quiet affair.
Individual.
Very individual. Most of the time you're dealing with either one archer, if it's a team 3 archers, and it's all through signs. They are showing signs that you have your own codes and showing, okay, move the side to the left for half a centimeter, half a millimeter. Sorry, centimeter. You're like you're missing the target. But it's very muted, and it's very like hand gestures and signals. And then you moved to China.
Yeah.
Oh, how did that happen?
How did that happen? That's a good question. I think
you moved to China as a football coach.
I did, yeah. I moved to China.
Are you coaching a women's team, a girls' team here?
Men and women's.
Men and women. So how did you move to China?
After I finished with Arsenal for the year, they offered me a job to stay with them in London. But I had just come off the back of this year of traveling around the world, meeting new people, experiencing new cultures. The idea of coming back to London was a bit like an anti-climax. I was like, meh.
They ain't stopping, right? Once you start traveling.
Yeah, I'm like, you get the traveling
difficult
bug. That's what they call it, right? And I was just like, I don't know. It seems like after this fantastic journey to go back home and be a coach, I don't think
really?
that. Yeah, I don't know.
Sound that good.
It doesn't sound great. So I looked at places, and obviously, if you follow football, you know that the Chinese Super League is a big league. They're attracting players from all over the world to come and play football here in China. And it's a growing sport. It's still young enough that coaches like myself can make an impact. And so I thought about where I could go, that football was still new, not oversaturated. And China came up, and I was like, well, I'll put my name in the hat and see what happens. And I applied for a few jobs, and I got a job with a football club that teaches grassroots football. So they teach kids, and they needed coaches from London specifically, and to come and coach.
Why from London?
I think
it's like the London School of Coaching is famous, or what?
I think when you follow football, if you ask people about the different leagues, you talk about the Premier League. You talk about the Premier League, and it's one of the most exciting leagues in the world. I mean, I'm biased because I'm from London, but I think
you're
genuinely
right.
think
I'm not a big football fan and follower, but the Premier League.
The Premier League is one of, if not the biggest league in the world, and so a lot of countries respect coaches that come from London and assume that their training has been good. And obviously being coached by one of the biggest London clubs, Arsenal,
that
helps a lot.
Law degree, Goldman Sachs career now.
Arsenal Football Club.
Is that Arsenal there?
So that helped, and they were looking for people from London, and I put in my CV. And I also think being female helped as well. There are not many female coaches, and now clubs are trying to, stamp out inequality in sports, and so female coaches are really sought after because there's not many of us around. And so when I put in my CV, it was almost instant. They were like, "Oh, you're female, you've trained at Arsenal, you've played, like, come on board." And I did. I was there for a year, and we coached kids from
mostly Chinese.
Mostly Chinese, mostly. I'd say 60-40, 60% Chinese, 40% international. And we would go around all the schools and deliver football sessions for the kids. And so we started at 18 months all the way up to 14, 15 years old.
Really? Even 18 months, does it make an impact?
Yeah, of course. Just as much as you would introduce different types of food to a child when it's young, so that they can have time to get used to it. It's the same with sports. It's the same with music. You start them young when their mind is fresh, open, when they're more susceptible to learning. And so, we would start them at 18 months, and they would go through our program right up until 15 years. So we had a lot of kids from different backgrounds and different levels that we would try and coach.
How long have you been in China now?
This is my second year.
And throughout these 2 years, just football coaching?
Just football coaching.
It's your dream job, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's my
How's your Chinese? What's the language on the field?
The language on the field is Chinglish, I think.
Is there a language on the field? Is there like a specific, jargon that you guys speak on the field?
Yeah.
Or is it all shouting?
No, I think, there is. There is a language. More so in England here. It's the same. The culture is the same. And what's so interesting is with my new job here at Beijing World School, the kids that I coach are 16, 17. They're a little bit older. And I find that, they're doing the same things. They're watching YouTube videos of the same players as my kids back home. They idolize Messi. They idolize Ronaldo. They want to know what the new tricks are. They want the haircut like Pogba. They want the clothes. And it's, like I say, it's universal. So it doesn't matter.
It's the same culture.
It's the same culture. And anybody can have access to it. And with the speed of how information is disseminated through the internet, these boys can get online and check the latest tricks in football. And they come to the field and they want to show me, "Oh, teacher, look what I learned this week." Blah blah.
Speaking of which, are these tricks important, or is just like a show off? Like, you see these people like bouncing and like I don't know, flipping and doing all these moves.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Are they?
Yeah, I'd say they are. I'd say that you can get, if you watch the great players, they use those tricks in the game, and that's what makes it exciting. That's what brings people to watch, because they know this player is good and he's gonna do something crazy that no one's seen before. And when you think back to the greats of the game, your Maradona, your Pelés, your Ronaldos, your Pogbas. It
was like a one-man show.
And why? Because they had all the tricks. They could do things that no other players could do. So, it's kind of important to keep up with that too.
Do you still play?
I do. I still play.
I used to be a goalie in Thailand.
We should do some penalty shootouts. to test you.
Totally. After the ping pong thing.
Yeah.
I'm more confident with the ping pong game.
I still play, and one of the things I've done since coming to China is I set up a senior women's football club here. And so
by senior you mean not?
I mean over 20s.
Yeah, okay.
Over 20s and women. And so we started last year with maybe 4 or 5 women coming out regularly, and we now have 32 women, and I coach them all each week.
And you have like a league playing with other clubs?
We just created a new league.
That's crazy. What are they called? What do you guys call yourselves?
The women. Well, our actual name is China Club Football. That's our name.
Very official.
Very official. We locally go by the Beijing Bats.
Okay.
Our kit is black, and we are in a league.
We totally have to come and see you play.
Yeah,
as soon as
it gets warm. It's cold right now.
Players play.
And Chinese New Year means that everyone kind of moves around. But in March we'll be back, and we train every Wednesday. We have matches every weekend, and we have about 8 other women's teams. Some of them are completely Chinese. Some of them are mixed, foreign and Chinese. We have a Hispanic team as well. So we have about 8 women's teams and in Chaoyang district, and we play each other in a league throughout the year.
Do you still play or just coach?
I'm trying to just coach.
Okay.
But there's a part of me that will there's a part of me that will always want to play.
What's your position on the field?
I'm a striker.
I'm a goalie.
Well, there we go. We're made for each other.
That's it. I know you'll never stop this globe-trotting adventure that you've started. But at a point, I think you mentioned that you want to go back home.
Yeah, for me.
To Nigeria.
Yeah.
What is home, actually?
Yeah.
Let me digress a bit.
Digress. They say that home is where the heart is.
Or where you've lived for the last 20 years.
Or where you've lived for the last... I would say...
In 4 years' time, I would have spent half of my life abroad.
And where would you then say home was for you?
I don't know.
I feel like there's 2 schools of thought. I feel like home really is where the heart is. And I also think that home is within yourself, where you are. But for me, I love London. It's where I spent the majority of my life. I have really good friends, family there. But Nigeria is a homecoming. I feel like, it's the origin of who I am.
Homeland.
I feel at ease. I don't feel any inhibitions. I just feel free. Because I'm with my people, I'm with familiar culture, language, and I'm fortunate that I can have 2 places that I can call home. So at the moment, my grandmother is still alive and she lives in Nigeria. So I go home as regularly as possible to visit her, make sure she's okay. Both my parents and their siblings are all in Nigeria. So my immediate cousins are all in Nigeria. So I
the
think
plan is to go back home one day to...
The plan is to go back home and to share my journey with girls in Nigeria or West Africa in general, and share how football can open doors and change lives and help girls feel empowered, help them know that they are equal, they can do just as much as boys, that they are can contribute to our sporting and society in general equally. I'm a massive advocate of empowering women, and I feel like I can do that through sport. And so
and you can start at the grassroots level with young girls football.
Yeah, and that's what
So the plan is to go back home and start a school?
A football academy whereby we can... Same thing. Whereby we can get girls into football. Being a lawyer as well, I'm very keen on making sure education still remains a focus, and getting girls to get an education whilst playing football, and perhaps creating opportunities to get them on scholarships to the US or the UK. So that's a very, very big dream, but something that I'm actively working towards achieving. And I think that would be a great way for me to give back, because that's what I lacked when I was that age. I lacked a role model. I lacked somebody who could say, hey, I've done this. This is how to do it, blah, 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 blah. And so I feel like... This is
what we can do from now on.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like I can provide if it's needed, to say, hey, education is important, get educated. But if you want to play a sport, make sure you have a backup plan, and this is how you can go about it. This is where you need to go, blah, 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 blah.
I think in so many ways you're like the perfect example and role model for the new generation.
Thank
you went out there and you got that degree they told you cannot get, and then you practiced in a very difficult and very sought after field.
Yeah.
And then you went back and said, like, I'm going to play football and I'm going to coach.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a beautiful story that, like, many people regret when they're very, very old. Like, I could have done all these things.
Yes. And exactly what you're saying is why I did what I did. I did not want to be 80 in a rocking chair thinking, I should have played football. I should have pursued football. I now can say I've done it. I'm fulfilled. Like, God forbid, but if I was to die, like, I'd be pretty happy. I'd be pretty happy with the life that I've lived and the experiences that I've had and the people I've been able to meet. And that's why I really genuinely consider myself very, very lucky to be living my dream. So yeah, it's a great decision, and I'm very happy with what I'm doing.
And I think your story will be inspiring for many people out there who are listening. And I do hope that maybe in a few years' time you come back and tell me the story of the academy in Nigeria.
Yes.
And maybe you can just drop some names. And this football player. Yeah, she was my student. I discovered her. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
We got 2 things to finish.
Yep.
The ping pong match.
Yep.
And then
the football
penalty
shootouts where I score about 20 goals against you. That would be great.
I'll say 1 or 2, I think. All right.
You.
I hope you guys enjoyed this awesome podcast. And this is Voicu Mihnea signing off from Beijing. Ciao.